Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for beginner web developers and general web enthusiasts. Now, introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Caines, and Ed Mann.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Three Devs and a Maybe. I am joined today by my co-host, Ed Mann.
Hello.
And we have another special guest in the form of Kris Jeary. How are you doing, Chris?
Not too bad, thanks. Yeah, very good. Very good. How are you gentlemen tonight?
Yeah, I say very good. I've had a very stressful day, but on the whole, I really can't complain.
Glad the day's over with. The day is
definitely
gone. It's now the evening and we get to talk more tech.
Yes.
So isn't that great? We get to talk shop again.
Never any better.
But thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate you giving up your spare time to come on and talk design.
So, my absolute pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, I guess, should we start off actually? Did you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you said, my name's Chris. I run a very small we're calling ourselves a web studio these days. Web studio called Squidders, based in Maidstone in Kent, Garden of England. I've been running the company for coming up to 10 years now. That's what I do in the day. Outside of the day, I'm mostly pretty tired and being torn apart by small children. I'm sure this sounds familiar to most people.
How many have you got?
Oh, 3, I think, last count.
Wow.
No more, that's it now.
Yeah.
And you're signing yourself up for that, aren't you, Mickey?
Yeah, I've got my first due on the 5th of August. So,
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you know what flavour you're having?
I don't, but my wife does. So it's a bit of a
How have you done that? That's amazing.
I don't know how she hasn't let it slip, or you haven't just pestered her and she's just given up.
Yeah. Well, I don't. It's actually worked okay. I mean,
you just don't talk to her. You just
that's it, exactly. Yeah.
Reason not to talk.
We just got neutral colours on everything. So it's not been too bad actually. So only another month.
I like the idea of someone else knowing something that I don't.
Yeah, a lot of people said that to me. I don't know. I'm quite patient, I guess, in that respect. But I'm looking forward to finding out. But either way, I'm happy, you know. So
it's an amazing time. It really is.
Yeah. Bring it on. I'm looking forward to it.
We're gonna keep that sound bite and we'll just play it back to you in like a couple of months.
When you have no sleep.
Yeah. That's it. How about you, Ed? How's your day been anyway?
Yeah, it's been fine. Enjoying the weather. It's been a bit hot, but stuck inside on the computer as you always are. So, dreaming of outside, and obviously then went out for a bit of a walk, trying to enjoy the race a little bit. But no, it's been not too bad, thank you.
Very good. We've kind of banned the term hot picks, even though I say it every single week. But I certainly don't have anything for this week. But Ed, I know you had a little something.
Yeah, so it's like I've been playing around with like everyone knows their cron jobs and their scheduled tasks and trying to work out that syntax and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it can be a pain, but also then writing shell scripts and working out where they are and all that stuff as well. So I enjoy PHP. I enjoy actually writing scripts in PHP. I think it's quite good for that, like hooking up quickly to a database, maybe backing it up, maybe moving it to Dropbox. So I actually found online, I'll put it in the show notes, like this library that does cron job expressions in PHP. So you can do almost the same thing and you can kind of, I've got it on my GitHub, I'll put that in as well, where it's just like this scheduled, simple kind of runner thing that allows you chuck in these tasks, classes into this thing. It will run them all. It will do it only obviously when it actually is meant to do it and stuff. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So I'll put that in the show notes and anyone else who's interested in it can have a little look.
It's certainly not the nicest of things, is it? I mean, I know you can things like cPanel and Plesk allow you to kind of manage your cron jobs, but even in that kind of environment, it's not very nice, is it? I mean, I find that they all,
and I find they all kind of, you get like bits and bobs everywhere, and it's like I want to hook up to Dropbox maybe to back them up and stuff. So PHP has all these libraries that I end up thinking, well, I could just use it, write a PHP script. So I've ended up just doing that really.
Yeah, that's very cool. But we'll put that in the show notes.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
Chris, going to put you on the spot here.
I don't have an opinion on that. I should have said I'm a designer, aren't I? And I'm certainly not a dev.
Don't worry, because we are absolutely shocking when it comes to design. So you will more than make up for it with us. But Yeah, I was going to put you on the spot, really. I do this every time to our guests, which is probably quite annoying. But we usually go around and just say if anyone's discovered anything new and exciting this week. It could be anything from like a plugin to library, whatever. But I was going to ask you, it doesn't have to be from this week, but any things that you would recommend to our listeners from a design perspective, any tools or software packages that you couldn't live without?
Live without, I guess, is a bit tricky. But so I've started using CodeKit recently.
All right, yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm mostly only using it for processing my SAS files, but yeah, no, that helps.
Yeah.
I'm a bit old school, a bit of a hand coder, and so I don't use an awful lot of software. And so yeah, picking something out is pretty tricky. You occasionally come across things. Before I was using CodeKit, I came across a website called Kraken.io, which just compresses down images. That's really handy. And things like using pingdom tools just to test, speeds of websites, what's slowing them down, etc. They're really useful.
Yeah.
That's all part of the sort of development process, I guess, and getting a site out the door.
Yeah. Ed, you're a CodeKit guy, aren't you?
I used to use it when I had like a very SAS heavy site. I used it on that, and yeah, it's a great tool. It kind of packages it all up, doesn't it? You can have Compass in there as well, and you don't have to deal with the terminal and all the Ruby dependencies or anything like that. So yeah, it's a really nice tool, and I think I convinced Fraser to play around with it as well. I think he kind of bought a license as well.
He did, yeah, I remember, yeah. Yeah.
I just love the way it's presented as well.
It's a beautiful. It's even the website and the application. It's
and the guy who wrote it, this huge muscle-bound dude. Yeah.
It's like, how has he got this all?
He is not what my stereotypical impression of developer is, or anyone working on the web for that matter. And it's those lovely little touches of getting emotion into the whole sort of design as well. You sign up and he tells you you're awesome. I know he's saying it to everyone, don't get me wrong, but
it's a nice touch, isn't it?
I just love that attention to detail, that personality that's so rare in very corporate, boring websites. Don't list the functionalities. Give me something a little bit extra. Yeah. And I thought he really did. It really sold it for me. It made me laugh whilst I was spending my money. Now that is design right there.
Yeah, I know what you mean though about your kind of characteristics of a typical developer. You kind of think tall, scrawny, glasses. Yeah.
Hi guys.
I wasn't hinting at you, Ed. I promise. Yeah.
Bad sense.
You think that's changed though? That never used to be.
Yeah, I think it has.
A view of anyone who works with a computer in front of them for most of the day.
True. I think your kind of classic geek has changed a lot these days. I think
bearded pizza eaters are out, and tall, nice thick glasses and drinking artisan coffee is.
No, that's definitely Ed. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So we have got. It's going to be like an interrogation. We've got hundreds of questions for you. So
here we go. We should start doing. You should do these in the mornings then when my brain's.
Don't worry, we feel the same way. Don't worry. Ed, did you want to crack on first?
Like the first one, I always liked. It's like, how did you get into design? What drew you to it as a child or a teenager?
Pretty much by accident, I guess. I'm sure most people say that. Obviously, when I was young, making myself sound old here, but there wasn't a thing called the internet, so I never grew up wanting to be a web designer. Certainly. But I always had a love of drawing, and I didn't have a huge interest in computers, but I always used to like. Do you remember those logic puzzles you used to get? You used to get books of them, and it used to be.
Yeah.
You sort of had a grid in the middle to sort of try and work out who had all the oranges or something daft like that. And I always really liked those. And, it's funny when the web came along, it sort of put those two things together for me. It was the logic and the sort of artistic side. The other thing I used to do, I remember I got a computer when I was 11. It was an Amstrad CPC 6128. And I remember buying, with a colour monitor. I was well posh.
Yeah.
And I remember buying the computer game magazines, and they used to have page after page of code. And if you sat there and typed it all in, you got a game at the end of it. Yes. And it used to take hours and hours to do these things. And you got one bit of syntax wrong, and that's it. It didn't work. But I used to love just messing around with the code afterwards, to try and change the colour.
Tweaking it and seeing what you could do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that I sort of gave up my interest in that. Other things took over, like, going out and drinking and hanging out with mates and things.
Yeah.
But I ended up in a job in the late 90s. And they put a computer on my desk and it was connected to the internet. And I remember the first being really excited about it and then turning it on. I've never been so disappointed in my life. I was like, what, this is it? This is the internet that everyone's going on about.
This is the buzz. This is what people are going, yeah.
Glorified teletext was all it was. That's all it was. There wasn't much there. It was just page after page. If you're an academic or something, then that was absolutely perfect. But it wasn't the web it is today, obviously. Yeah. But I didn't have anything to do in that job. I had a job and I literally sat there twiddling my thumbs. So I thought, well, might as well make some websites and stuff.
I know exactly what you're saying though, because like we have a lot of the kids that I call them kids. They're like 22, 23, but they literally, obviously, they don't remember a time when the internet didn't exist. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember like coming home and my dad getting the internet through work, and I was so excited to see what it was. But like you say, it was abysmal. But I guess at the same time, because of that, like you saw the potential and you knew that it was just happening, and it was such an exciting time to be in, I guess.
Yeah, it was almost like bringing it back to coding those old games. It's like, right, this is the limited amount of stuff you can do now. And you're like, well, I want to see if I can do something else with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had a good year of that with nothing else to do.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And sort of from there, I did a few real websites for that company. All of a sudden they decide, well, they've got this guy sitting there doing nothing. We may as well get him to do us a website. And then from there, I sort of went and got a proper website job and sort of learned about commercial design. Did that for about 5 years, got made redundant, and I sort of thought, well, sod it, I'm going to set up on my own. And that was, nearly 10 years ago now.
That's a brave move. Was it hard or?
It was from a lack of options, to be perfectly honest. There wasn't a job out there that was willing to pay me what I wanted to be paid. Or what I needed, to be perfectly honest, what I needed to survive on.
Yeah.
So it was a lack of options. I'd sort of had a couple of, whilst I was working in that job, I sort of had a few clients on the side, and I was pretty confident in what I was doing. But obviously, the bit you don't know. I mean, I have to run a business now, and that's the bit you don't know: how to be a salesman, how to manage cash flow, and I still don't enjoy that.
Yeah, well, you kind of just preempted one of my questions. Actually, I mean. That must be hard to be everything in one, like you say, generating the business and then doing the work itself. I get, when you're first starting and you don't have the resources to employ someone to do the other things you need to do, you literally have to do everything, right? I'm guessing the first couple of years were the hardest. Yeah,
absolutely, and working from home as well, and managing your own time, and it is hard, absolutely. Yeah. But it's my own fault in a lot of ways. I mean, I could let go some of the control, and I have done over the years now. But it's still me doing the designs. I'm still so precious about it.
Yeah.
And we're in the process of sort of hiring at the moment, and it will be someone who's going to come and step on my toes a bit.
Yeah.
and that's fine. I think I'm going to be okay with it. But I got into this because I love the job. I didn't get into it to, go to sales meeting and do proposals and pitches. That's not why I got into this.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a lot for me to actually finally say, no, I'm not getting involved in design anymore.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree. I mean, for me, like, I don't want to get to the point where I'm kind of leading teams or managing teams, because that means probably less hands-on with the code. So, I love that too much to really want to step away from it, I guess.
Yeah, I certainly hear you on that. Certainly.
Yeah. Okay. More questions.
More questions indeed. So, like, so you call yourself then a designer? Would the coding side? It sounds like you did some coding then back in like when you first started building websites. Do you do any more coding now, or is it?
Well, I get so confused as to what I am, to be perfectly honest. It used to be easy. You used to call yourself a webmaster and you just did everything.
That's it, yeah. It's now front-end dev, back-end, and it's,
Well, I don't know whether I'm a front-end designer or a front-end dev. I really don't know, because there's only me doing the front-end bits. But I design and code those designs. So at Squidders, there's two of us at the moment. It's myself and Jo does all of the back-end development. So anything involving PHP and MySQL and all the stuff you guys know about. Yeah. I know very little about these days. But if we have just a brochure project without a CMS system, then I will do it from start to finish. I still code. I'm still very much. I know a little JavaScript, not loads, enough to get by on. But yeah, no, I'm still very much coding.
So do you think that helps you? Because like one of my questions was going to be like, I find in the web game, like a lot of designers, they kind of come from the print world.
Yeah.
And they don't really understand the web. I suppose with you, did you ever do any print stuff, or was it mainly it was just for the web?
I'm terrible at print work. I can't do it.
Did you find it's like not the limitations of the web, but more like the kind of like the things you've got, the interactivity and stuff like that kind of appeals to you more than this fixed, it has to be?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I started, it was pretty fixed, I guess, because we're all doing 960 grids and everything.
That's true, yeah.
But, it was pretty, and everyone was obsessed with the fold, but everyone was looking at the same 15-inch chunky monitor. I mean, I don't think, I haven't got a print background, but I don't think print's a bad starting point. In a lot of ways, I suppose I still use those principles. It's lovely designing for the web because creativity comes from when you have a set of limitations restricting what you can do. You haven't got a blank canvas. I'm not an artist. I'm a designer. It's not a blank canvas that I can do what I want with it. Yeah. But I do start with a pencil and paper. So I'll sketch out on paper and then look at what I've done and then go straight to the code. So I often get that headache of, right, I've sketched this. I don't know how the hell to code this. I'm going to have to find out.
See, I think that's a good thing because I do find, because it's. I don't think you can be a designer for the web and not know some code because you have to know the restrictions of, or you have to work very much with a developer to work out, well, actually, we can do this, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Because, or else you're going to get into this thing where you think you can do all this stuff and it's, Well,
I think it was Jeffrey Zeldman that said, good designers, good web designers always code, always will. Or I'm paraphrasing and getting it slightly wrong, but it's true. I don't think you can design in a medium without knowing how to execute on those designs.
I do think that in some ways the lines have become quite blurred now in respect to what you're saying, and it is very hard to say where a designer ends and where a front end developer begins, and that's really hard. And like you say, in the bad old days when web pages were pretty awful, like you could be a master of everything and you could do everything yourself, but now it's just not possible, is it? I mean, I try desperately hard to keep up with what's going on, but certainly in the front end terms, I've really lost kind of touch in the last year because it's moving so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I sort of lost my way about 3 years ago with doing the back end stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep up with it all and have a life. To be perfectly honest, I mean, yeah, sure. And no disrespect to 20-year-olds out there, if you're 20, you've got tons more energy than I've got, and you can work till 11 o'clock at night, no problems at all. Every single night, I can't. My brain doesn't work that late anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a really important point. Actually, I really do.
So like I say, I'd start with a blank sheet of paper, and then I'll sort of code it up from there. But and obviously whilst you're coding, you're considering all the calls to action and where elements should be on the screen. And then research is the most important, how eye tracking survey works, what colours attract more clicks and how you balance that out on the site, making sure the design is balanced, that the left side is the same weight as the right side, all of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been not ranting so much, but certainly opinionated about things like Bootstrap, that I actually think they're really dangerous, more so than taking from print. Things like Bootstrap it raises the bar a little at the bottom end of the market.
Yeah,
it encourages laziness.
That's really interesting point.
That is a really interesting point. Yeah,
yeah, I completely agree with that.
If you've got a beautifully designed button and it's already there, ready for you, you're just going to use it. You're not going to think, actually, is this the best option for me?
Yeah, and I guess you end up with very boring web pages because everything's
the same, isn't it?
We've all seen them, haven't we?
Yeah, I think that's the problem with it being a developer like us. It's kind of nice with the back end thing. It's like, oh, just use Bootstrap, and of course everyone else thinks the same thing, and then it just turns into, oh, it's another Bootstrap site.
Yeah,
and that's fine if you're looking. I guess if you're building CMS systems or admin systems for people in the back end, then you've got that familiarity. Yeah. So there is a balance. Familiarity is a great thing for the end user. But True. It's not necessarily the right fit for the project you're working on.
Yeah, I get quite annoyed. Well, not annoyed, but fed up of how many times you see a WordPress site where they've not even changed their custom theme, and there's just hundreds of them on the web, and it's Well, it's just heartbreaking to
You
be
bring
honest.
up Lewis's favourite thing, WordPress. So he's not here to defend it. He doesn't like it.
Lewis hates WordPress.
I've never gone anywhere near WordPress. To be honest.
Way.
We do bespoke everything. I say bespoke. I mean, we say we don't use any CMS frameworks. We use CodeIgniter and starting to go over to Laravel or Laravel. You can tell me how I'm meant to pronounce it.
Good
Both
choice.
good. Yeah.
But, these are just words to me. It's Joe that makes the calls on these things. But, yeah, we're gradually moving away from CodeIgniter for reasons that Joe knows and I trust. But everything else we do is bespoke, and it's just carving out that little niche in the market. If I was a hipster, I'd say we did artisan websites, but I'm not a hipster. I'd never say that. Certainly not on a podcast.
Well, I did the cheeky thing, as I often do. I've got a guest on the show. I went to your site and I looked at the source, and your philosophy definitely ties in with mine. It was just really nice and clean, and there wasn't gunk in there. It was really nicely done. Really impressed. Really nice.
Well, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's lean, and talking of tools earlier and sort of mentioning Pingdom, I'm a bit obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But that said, I have a rant as I do like doing on Twitter once in a while. That there was a web company over, I don't know, somewhere in Kent, and they were sort of going around everyone's website and looking at the homepage and the file size of it, and then going, "This is crazy." Look at the file size of this. Completely missing the point, because we've got a video on our homepage which we're in the process of reshooting actually. But the video on the homepage obviously knocks the page size up to about 14.5 meg.
Yeah.
But, and it's a big but, it's a progressive thing. The site loads in under a second.
Well,
and then the video comes in, and it just annoys me that some people just look so black and white.
This fixed. This is what it is. I mean, it's like in the dark ages again, isn't it? Where it's just like, this is what, the page is like this. That's the nice thing about the web, is you can be responsive. You can adapt to different environments, and Absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
Well, you've kind of just, one of the questions I had for you actually was, because I absolutely loved the video.
The
on your
video
site.
is amazing.
It
the
really
video
did.
is just, I haven't seen something like that before done so well. I really think it's amazing.
Oh, cool. Well, it's only going to be there for another few weeks.
So when this podcast comes out, quickly rush to the site.
I think your site and the other thing I noticed it on was on PayPal. I thought that video was pretty good on there. But my question was going to be really was, are we seeing a bit of a revival with videos on websites? Because like I say, on PayPal, I've seen it on quite a few sites. I'm seeing it now.
Full screen kind of video experiences.
Yeah.
I possibly, yeah. I mean, broadband speeds sort of allow us to play around with these things now. And I think video done well, video can be so powerful. I don't know about you, but if I'm evaluating a bit of software or something that I might want to use, I go to a website, there's a 2-minute video, or I can read page after page of text. I'm going to watch the video.
Yeah.
Especially if it's filmed interesting. I'm not talking about, just someone sat there on a chair looking at the camera on a white background. I've got no interest in that at all, to be honest. But broadband speeds means we can get away with it. I mean, the thing I get most concerned about, and I do get concerned about file sizes and page sizes, because what seems to be coming back is preloading websites, that I have to wait for a website to load again.
Yeah, having your own loading bar.
I thought we killed Flash. It's Flash dead, long live Flash or something. But that drives me up the wall. It really does. But done properly, as these things always should be. Video could be brilliant. And as I say, we're just reshooting. The video we've got there at the moment was sort of done by a friend of mine. As almost like a tech test. It's a HTML5 embedded in the site. I'd not done that before, and I wanted to. And now we've got that, and it seems to have gone down well. We're reshooting with a proper video production company.
Oh, cool.
With rigs and all the rest of it. I don't know. More words I don't understand. But I had a meeting with them, and I'm a big sort of Wes Anderson fan. And so we want to do a real sort of Wes Anderson kind of intro, and I think it's going to be fun. I hope it's good and not cheesy or too pastiche, or it's always the balance.
Yeah, that sounds very cool.
Yeah, I'll let you know when it's done.
Yeah, definitely. I guess for me, sort of a lot of those things is then, that sounds lazy, but then you've got to consider all the the backwards compatibility and the graceful degradation and all that kind of stuff.
IE6. Everyone just say,
yeah, I mean, me and Ed
IE6 now. I think
we're on IE6, me and Ed.
We can.
Care. We develop for IE9 plus.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I agree.
We get away with it, to be perfectly honest, because most of the sites we're developing are for the UK market or Europe. Certainly my site, my target market's London, Kent, anyone in the UK or anyone around the world. But I'm not trying to. My market isn't, developing nations with old tech equipment. That's just not my market. If I was the Amazon of this world, then yeah, sure, I'd still be supporting IE6, IE7.
Yeah, and I think like for our kind of work, I mean, I completely agree with what you say, and I think if people want that, then I would have it in the contract to say, well, look, okay, we'll make it compatible for this browser, but you have to understand that it's going to be a lot more work. So
we charge extra for that, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's in our contract.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree.
We have a list of supported devices, a list of supported browsers, and absolutely, we'll develop anything for any browser within reason. But there will be an extra charge for that.
How do you test then with all these browsers? Do you just load up loads of virtual machines, or do you actually have physical machines that you go to?
A bit of both, to be honest. I've got a couple of old Android handsets, and I've got a couple of old PCs in the office. An old laptop still running Vista.
Yep.
I don't throw anything away. This will get reused. But yeah, for the rest of it is virtual boxes, basically, on my Mac.
They save so much time, don't they? Just
absolutely.
Being able to fire
just
them up.
Fire up IE7. Does it work? Yes or no?
It. Microsoft having to pretty much be forced to release all these nice virtual boxes for us because of their stupid browser, which is always great.
Well, it's them that's put us in this.
That's it, exactly. They're like, we're really sorry now. Here you go.
They've got better. I'm all for encouraging companies that when they've actually turned a corner.
Yeah, they are trying now.
I think they're taking it seriously.
Yeah. Which is sad though, because obviously it's all the fact that with IE6, the only reason why it came about and it just stagnated was thought we've done the web now. It's over and done with.
Oh, brilliant. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah, exactly. You could just put a stamp on it. We're done.
That's it. Finished. Yeah.
XHTML. We're done. Oh, no. Let's do
imagine if we'd stopped there.
Oh, dear.
You know what? I said I had no hot picks. I did have a hot pick. You two just kind of remind me, really.
What's that?
That Android emulator.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if I pronounced this right, but Genie Motion?
Put it in the
I'm guessing it's Genie Motion. Yeah. But yeah, just a really nice Android emulator.
Which is actually not dog slow, which the thing is, yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if you've had experience with this, Chris, but I'm just kind of dipping my toes in the water with app development at the moment. And then I want to start off by making an Android app. But sure. the Android development kit and the emulator that you get is just so painfully slow. And I was looking for a solution, and I know Ed had quite a bit of success doing things manually.
You had to tweak all this stuff this is one of the things where, again, Apple just do it right out of the box. Look, you need to make this right. You shouldn't have to go through all these tutorials after installing the software because of...
Yeah, but this thing is really friendly, nice GUI, and it's just really easy to use and really simple. So we'll put it in the show notes. Won't bang on about it too much, but definitely check it out if you need a nice Android emulator. It's pretty nice.
Oh, I think I've only used online ones to start recently, to be honest.
Yeah.
See, they're quite cool, aren't they? Because the idea is then you can just send it off and it will go and they'll just have their own instances of stuff. You can say, look, just here's a screenshot of everything.
Yeah.
There's one with Adobe, right, as well, as part of their package.
I think they've got... Yeah, that they just fire off in their own virtual machines. They load it up and test it and see what any significant differences between the lot.
Yeah,
that's the hard thing. I think that kind of that's another thing I was asked. So, do you ever design? So you say you design on pen and paper. Then do you move into Photoshop or do you move kind of directly into coding?
Straight into code.
Straight into code. I love that.
I don't know how to use Photoshop.
That is cool.
Many web designers admit that, but I've got a copy of it. And I occasionally open it and work out how to delete layers, but it's not what I do. It just confuses me.
I think that is kind of a telling sign of what the web is. Really, it's its own medium. I was going to say Photoshop because it seems to be used for everything, and it's a strange one because everyone uses it for all these different things, and it's kind of well, there isn't really actually an application that's specific for designing for the web that is obviously any good. Like if you've got Dreamweaver and all these things, but. as you say, like just getting into the code, because that's in the end is going to be the end result, and they're the limitations you have. You really haven't got like layers and all this stuff to be able to, yeah.
I mean, once upon a time, I just work quicker that way. It's not a snobbery thing. It's just I work quicker that way. I've designed enough websites and coded up enough websites in my time that I kind of know what I'm doing, I guess, now. That I don't need to comp it in Photoshop, and I'm certainly not going to be sending clients comps in Photoshop and then having to go back to explain why they don't look the same because it's a responsive site.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, the whole PNG of this is what it looks like, and then and you're going back and on their.
Well, it doesn't look like what you sent me initially.
Yeah, I signed off on this. What's going on here?
I mean, I use Pixelmator, which is just something I got off the App Store for about £20, and that does image cropping and image resizing. That's nice. All I need.
That's very cool.
I kind of think, we have a lot of meetings at work with developers and designers, and I tend not to get involved with things that are design and front end kind of revolving. But I kind of think I'm quite open minded on how people do it. If people want to use Photoshop, that's cool, and if people want to design the browser, that's fine. But I guess thing that would make sense to me with designing the browser is when you start thinking of things like CSS-free stuff, on particularly like animations, that kind of stuff. How do you kind of translate that vision into Photoshop? It's surely easier to do it the way that you're doing, I guess, to just do it and code it up straight away and do it that way, I guess.
I think it's the only real way to test as well, if these crazy ideas I've scribbled out are actually going to work for going from, different screen widths or different devices.
Yeah, because that's not the whole responsive thing. I mean, doing that in Photoshop, I mean, that's just not possible.
Otherwise, you end up getting to the point where you're doing a desktop site and a mobile site.
That's it. Or, you're doing like an iPad, an iPhone, and a desktop. And
that's just missing the point of responsive. The whole idea of responsive is future-proofing it, because we don't know what's coming next. And we really don't.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. That's the truth. We really don't. Yeah. The next device Apple releases, we have no idea what they're going to do. Or something.
I mean, I remember laughing with plenty of other people with the iPad. Oh, it's just a big iPhone.
With a funny name.
What do I know?
And now exactly. It's now become the de facto pretty much. I mean, a lot of people have just removed the idea of having needing a desktop in their lives.
Well, that's it. There's plenty of people out there, and I have people, friends, family come to me and sort of say, "Oh, I'm thinking of getting a new computer. I'm going to get a MacBook Pro." And I said, "You say, all right, well, that's a good choice, but what are you using it for?" Yep. Oh, well, surfing and email.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's an option that that maybe. Yeah.
I think you buy an iPad or something. Yep. That's all you need.
It's crazy.
Didn't someone say famously a little while ago that the desktop is dead or something? Or I mean, I don't agree with that.
I think
personally,
you know what? I think it's dead for the not mainstream. I think it's a specific thing now, isn't it? Really, I think you'd use it for as we would use it for just developing, people gaming. But then, I suppose
I'm still more comfortable on my iMac than I am my MacBook. I guess I love my MacBook, but
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I guess this kind of leads us nicely onto this topic, and it's not a topic I particularly like, and I think the word is like a swear word. But
whoa, okay, watch out, Mickey. What is going on here?
It's the second time I've kind of phrased this badly, isn't it? But the whole responsive topic.
Responsive.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we've got quite a few questions on this, really. But I had a massive rant with one of our front end developers. It's not uncommon for us to have massive arguments, but we love each other greatly outside of work.
Inside work, I hate you.
Yeah. But he, and the thing is, I used to share his argument, so it was a bit weird. I was almost like arguing with myself. But I used to, where I used to work, I used to get annoyed if I didn't get a design for a mobile, the tablet, and the desktop device. And there's pretty other sizes now. But I've actually in theory now, I don't agree with that. I actually think you should have one design, and that the way that you code it makes it suitable for all devices. But again, it's a really
it's hard then, because then the designers kind of said, this is what I want it to be. And then really what happens there is the developer is actually then designing it as well, because then they're the one. And I think it's like, Chris, what you do, I think that's the only way you can do responsive right, is if actually the designer is the guy who's in there coding it as well, because they have then the control, because it's that whole kind of, as you were saying, Mickey, with like, when does a designer stop and the developer begin? Well, I think with responsive and stuff, it's gone from the fact of you can't just do it in Photoshop and give it to a developer to then, develop if it's going to be a responsive site, or maybe if it's a single page application or something.
The first question I was going to ask was, do you start with the mobile view and then work up? Because that seems to be the accepted kind of rule now.
It's a bit on trend, isn't it? The sort of mobile first. I'm not against the principle. I probably don't design mobile first, to be honest. But when I'm designing, I'm thinking of mobile. Will I need this element? Will this translate to mobile? But like I say, because I start with a pen and paper, I roughly draw out a rectangle, and I guess it's probably about 960 pixels wide is what I'm working on. I don't know. And then sort of think about, as I'm putting this element in, okay, these two sections are next to each other here. Well, I guess when we go down to mobile, they'll stack on top of each other. That's sort of the approach I take with it, to be honest.
The
idea first, the technical bit second.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's my attitude on it as well, to be honest. The other question I was going to ask you, I was just getting into this when I stopped doing any front end work. Really, my last role involved quite a bit of front end work, but now I'm strictly back end. But it was certainly, when I stopped doing it, certainly getting to the point where these kind of like high resolution images for these retina displays. Yeah, it was coming into fashion, and I never really understood it or worked with it. But is that something that you do or get requests for? Or?
Well, it's something we do anyway. I mean, I certainly don't go double the size.
Yeah.
I don't think you need. I can't see the difference. I mean, my eyesight's not what it used to be, but I struggle to see the difference. I mean, if you have, argument's sake, 1,000 pixels, which even talking pixels is just ridiculous in this day and age, isn't it? But roughly 1,000 pixel image, and then you're worried about having to display it at 2,000 pixels. Well, you're never going to do it.
Yeah.
But if you go up to 1,400, you'll get that extra sharpness, and I doubt too many people would notice the difference, to be honest. Only people looking for it, probably. Yeah,
I agree with that, to be honest with you. Just
we've got new tools coming. The picture element looks exciting for CSS, but we'll see what that brings.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you one more question. I keep badgering you. I'll let Ed jump in a minute. But how important is your Mac to you and your process?
My Mac?
I can tell you're a Mac guy because I looked at your website. So, yeah.
Yeah, I am. But to be honest with you, I've only been a Mac guy for about 3 years.
Yeah, me too, to be honest. But
I was happy using Windows,
Yeah.
Well, I say
happy. I don't know, happy and Windows in the same sentence.
I tolerated it. It didn't matter too much because I'm a hand coder and I don't use Photoshop, and I don't need too much sort of umph behind it. And I used to like having a PC so I could play the games on them as well.
Yeah.
To be honest, I had an unnecessarily high spec PC so I could play, Fallout or Half-Life 2 when that came out, that kind of thing, And I do still keep the PC around. It's rarely turned on because it makes a bloody racket.
So you invested in a nice graphics card, that kind of stuff, did you?
Oh, absolutely. And made sure I had a solid state drive and all of this.
Nice.
Stuff. It was a nice machine, but I then bought an iMac. I don't even know why I did, and it sat on my desk for about 8-9 months, and I was just using it to browse the web, and it was beautiful for doing it.
Yeah.
I was like, I've got to change this bit of software. I can't get that bit of software on a Mac, and it was right. When have I got time to learn new things? And in the end, the PC I was using sort of died. It would have been right. I've got to rebuild it again for the 15th time this year, and I thought, no, I'm not bothering anymore.
Yeah.
Let's actually use this Mac. Let's go through the couple of months of pain of learning it.
That's interesting. So, I mean, are you won over now with Macs, or would
Mac
you?
Oh, absolutely.
Or... Yeah.
The other Mac user now looks down my nose at anyone mentioning how wonderful Windows 8 is. Oh, really? I saw something. I was out at the weekend and just out with the kids, and took them to a sort of wood playground area, and there was some sort of people doing sculpture and things like that, and someone taking photos and recording video. And I saw these people in the cafe afterwards, and because I'm nosy, I get involved. Oh, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And they were like playing around with the video files on a huge Microsoft laptop.
Yeah.
I was like, what were you thinking? Why did you get this thing? It must weigh a ton. You could do that on a MacBook Air.
Yeah, so true. So very true.
I think the biggest thing that got me across, like most people, was the iPhone.
Yeah, that was
I
the
had an
gateway
iPhone
drug,
before
wasn't it? It's because everyone loved the iPhone. It was so different at the time.
Yeah.
Then it was like, oh, they've got this whole idea of Mac, and then it'll be easier, and that whole ecosystem kind of.
And then you get sucked into it, and now I've got Apple TV, I've got my Mac.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's how it goes.
Everything.
So, the only thing I've got rid of is my iPad. I had a first generation iPad, and I just don't use it because I've got the MacBook Air that I can actually code on as well.
Yeah, I suppose that's
like,
a good point, actually. Mickey, do you feel that? Because you've got, because it's so
honestly,
light and everything, you just don't.
It's like same story. I've just literally got rid of my first generation iPad, and honestly, I still think that was an amazing bit of kit. And I know it has slowed down because of the iOS updates and stuff, but it's still a brilliant bit of kit. I've just given it to my mother-in-law, but like you say, the MacBook Air.
My wife.
But yeah, the MacBook Air is so light and boots up so quick.
And it's a full laptop. It's a full,
yeah, exactly. You got your keyboard, your trackpad. It's actually, for me, I just don't. I'd like an iPad Mini maybe at some point, but it'd be a luxury rather than requirement at this stage, I guess. So
I could get one to read books on. To be honest, I think that'd be the reason that I would get an iPad now, and that just seems like a lot of money to spend to read some books.
True. Yeah, that's a good point, and especially when you got something like a Kindle with, like the liquid ink and that kind of stuff, it'd be a bit of a toss-up, I guess.
I tend to read sort of tech books on my phone, to be honest, because that way it's always with me if I'm waiting for a bus or you're taking the kids to some kind of god-awful soft play area or something.
You just want to zone out for about 15 minutes or so. Mickey, take notes on this.
Yeah, I am. Don't worry.
These are valuable dad skills. Always have your own distractions in your pocket. And that's the phone, that's got everything on it I need. I'll check my email, go on Twitter, and then read a book.
Yeah, that's great advice. Sorry, Ed, I keep badgering Kris.
I was really kind of probably not nice frameworks then, front-end frameworks, because there's a big old thing in the back-end frameworks, and they're very useful. But there seems to be this kind of, this with Bootstrap and Zerb and all these, kind of the idea of you have to use a framework in the front end. I guess, do you find that they help? I mean, I know you're saying with Bootstrap, it probably does, or do you find that really actually it's kind of confusing, making it more confusing, adding lots of stuff that's not going to be used to your actual website?
I'm just a bit of a control freak, I think. I just don't like stuff, even in my CSS files, that I'm not using. If I've coded something up for a page and then that element's not being used anymore, I'll delete it from the CSS. I don't like, and it's not me being super geeky about it. I just don't like bloat because I don't like mess.
And it's going to cause it's extra places that could cause problems. And it's exactly, if it's not used, why?
I have a really simple, now a SAS sheet that I start with, and it is really simple. It has only the very basics, no styling in it at all, more structure than styling.
Are you a reset guy or are you a normalized type of guy?
Yeah, no, I've got reset code at the top, which I've got a new one recently, but I've been using the same one forever. I don't understand most of it, to be honest.
Oh, I know. You literally look. There's so many different ones as well. I remember the old days of just doing the star pseudocode, and you could just say padding 0 and margin 0, but then you've got the whole. I mean, I think Eric Mayer's one, isn't it? He's as kind of, for me, it's the de facto of that's how I kind of do it.
I'm embarrassed to know I don't even know where mine comes from.
Hey, if it works, it works. That's it, exactly, and that's it.
I didn't really know there was alternatives, but I've always used Eric Mayer's one. I'm a reset guy as well.
There's like a website called cssreset.com, and it's got a collection of them all. But there's some weird. It's
surely they all do the same thing.
Well, this is it. That's what I was thinking. I think they do it slightly. I mean, the normalized way is kind of quite interesting. Instead of nuking the page and saying no, nothing, it will just put sensible defaults. But then I kind of think, as you're saying, you're designing a website the way you want to. You're going to reset it anyway. You want to reset it. You don't want to
kill all
blank page. To be honest,
you just want a blank page, no padding on anything. It's like actually say I want to do it my way, and because it's your website, you don't want to have these already.
And I have to say, like I said, I mean, I keep going on about how good your website is, but
that's all right. You can.
But I mean, you might not know, but basically, my home broadband with a company I won't name and shame, but I basically get a speed of about
Utility
28.
Warehouse.
Yeah, thank you. I get about 28 kilobytes per year. So it's like
ration it off.
yeah, it's pretty reliable. So most websites take about a week to load, but your site with the video as well is just really fast to load up. And like I said, look to the source code, and you can tell that you don't go for that whole bloat. You seem to have control on everything that goes in there.
It's that and good hosting as well. To be perfectly
true.
honest.
Very good point.
We had a client recently, and we designed a website for them, and obviously, made sure we gave the same level of detail and attention to their code as we do our own. And they had some hosting from a company that might rhyme with 123 veg. And nice. it was running so slowly that I had my client coming to me, there's something up with my website, what's wrong with it? And I said, right, okay, let me upload it to our server. Here you go, here's the two sites. And our server was running it, 5 times quicker.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So we do try and, get as many people on our web hosting as possible because, we just basically lease a load of virtual dedicated servers. That's not a load, a few, but we won't overload them.
Yep.
Yeah.
We haven't got that commercial pressure to do that.
That's it. It's like you can then, kind of not just trying to chuck as many sites on a box as possible.
Absolutely. So, and if we sort of have a sort of sliding scale of cost for it as well, that, if one of our clients' websites get really busy, brilliant. It means we've done our job well, but also it means they've got to pay a bit more for hosting. We might double their hosting charge and then put one less person on that server.
So how do you use like Amazon EC2 or DigitalOcean, that kind of?
No, I don't mind giving a name check to the best IT company around, which is a company based in Kent called Akita.
Oh, I have to check them out.
Yeah, akita.co.uk, and they're just lovely guys. They have virtual servers that they set up for us because I'm not IT. I'm really not. They set everything up for us. When I've got a problem, I phone up, and you know what? They've got 3 guys who work in the support department. And I'll speak to one of them, and they remember me, and they know me, and they don't have to ask for my login.
That's so cool. I think
very cool.
I think that's one of this is the trouble with like Amazon, because I think with Amazon you have to pay to even have the privilege of talking to them, and then DigitalOcean's obviously in America.
Yeah.
I use Memset for a bit because they're in English. I think that, as you say, it's like when the server goes down, you want to talk to someone, and you want it to be on your time zone, and you want, I mean, this is great. This is interesting. Like
they just don't bore me with it either. To be perfectly honest. I was like, phone them up and say, everything's backed up, isn't it? And they went, yeah, of course. I said, you couldn't restore something for me? Yeah, where is it? And it's done there and then on the phone. And, you get to know people after a while. You sort of, how have you been? How was your holiday? And you know what? I probably pay them maybe £10 a month more than I was paying UK2 or 123 Reg or someone like that. And, it's worth every penny.
Yeah.
And it's not an 0845. No, the thing that always gets me with it is you struggle to find a phone number, and if you get through, then you're on hold for half an hour to speak to someone who doesn't know you and doesn't know your website and doesn't know the problems.
And doesn't really care either. It's like
they'll treat you like a bit of an idiot,
Yeah.
And I don't need that. I just need someone to take that headache away from me and let me get on with what I'm good at.
Yes, I completely agree. Just you want to do your job, let them do theirs, and that's a great relationship, I think.
Actually, Mickey, we were talking about this probably a bit earlier today. Like, I think it's funny, like in the web game, that we kind of feel that we have to know everything, or we have to be at least, like in other profession, in other like programming, like you will be just the coder, and then you'll have a DevOps team or something. But with websites, especially like when you're small businesses and stuff, you feel like you have to know from the server and up. And it's nice if like companies like this that you can kind of give that control over to them and say, look, I want to do my job and do that well. You do your job and you do that well.
Yeah, I like I said to you, I mean, I always beat myself up that I don't understand kind of the folder structure and how everything works kind of on a Unix level. But like you say, it's a lot to know, and
well, that's it. But then I think it's a detriment to yourself because then you're kind of not allowing yourself to get good at one. Spreading yourself too thin. I think. Yeah, I think companies like this that actually do it and do it right. That's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess it's that whole jack of all trades and master of none if you're not careful. I guess
that's it. That is the saying.
Yeah,
I just always like to think you need to have enough information to know when someone's lying to you or not.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Calling BS.
Yeah.
I put that as politely as I could.
Yes.
Oh, remember Lewis's silly Billy tax?
Yeah, I will never forget it. Yeah.
Oh, was it a sliding sort of scale?
So depending on the client and how silly they are and their you would add a silly Billy tax, which I think is a good, nice way of saying,
Yeah.
I take it he doesn't call it a silly Billy tax.
No. Only the podcast was silly Billy. It says, what's this silly Billy tax added?
Can I take you back to the responsive topic for a minute? Because I did have another question, really. I mean, the whole word, like I say, just strikes fear into my soul. But I mean, how do you feel about it? And for me, I'm always worried about our traders in general, that we're in this kind of race to the bottom in terms of pricing. And I know some companies just literally, it's like responsive by default now. It's all included in the price. And I kind of think, how can you do that when it is more work? Whatever your workflow, it is more work, surely.
Well, we had to put prices up to cover it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Our minimum order's gone up. It's double what it was a few years ago because there's loads more devices and I've got to design responsibly.
Yeah.
Thankfully we've been very lucky. We have very loyal clients. We look after them and they come back. So we've not had that issue, and putting prices up is never easy.
No.
But yeah, no, we have more work to do. People have to pay more for it. It's that simple. I'm not interested in a race to the bottom. That's not why people come to us. And, I guess the bottom then becomes people using templates, templates.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Do you find that people kind of think, oh, well, your job, it's just go on, theme florist or something. And it's like, well, that's kind of completely taking... Really, it's an insult. It's like, well, like saying that obviously, this $14 template is as good as your work on a custom bespoke software.
But they're different customers.
Yeah.
I don't feel threatened by them in the slightest, to be perfectly honest. You look at something like Squarespace. If I have a client come to me who can't afford us, and that's fine. People ask for a price, we give them a price, and if they say, that's a lot more than we're willing to spend, I say, well, as an experiment to see, especially on new ventures, if you want to get something up and running to see what people are going to, how people are going to react to your product, go on Squarespace, design your site there. It'll be responsive. It should hopefully help you make it look nice. It's not a design. I do have that little sticking point when people describe it as choose from one of these designs. Well, they're not designs because they're not solving a problem.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah.
They are templates, they are layouts, and that's absolutely fine for most people, to be honest. People tend to come to us these days when they're on their, I don't know, maybe their second or third website, and they've done it cheap a couple of times, and it's never quite delivered what they wanted to do, and you end up coming out with these sort of sales lines, which are absolutely true, that a website designed and built properly will make you money. It won't cost you a penny.
Yeah, that is a great kind of ethos. Completely agree with that.
It's your salesman. It's working 24/7 for you. And
that's so true. Yeah.
And so let's pluck a number out the air and say, right, well, website A is going to cost you £10,000. Well, how many sales is that to you? If you're dealing with a big company or you're dealing with a company that's selling high value goods, that could be one sale.
Yeah. For a second there, I thought you were asking me the question. I was trying to do the maths in my head. I was getting really panicking and sweating, but yeah, I completely agree.
And it's also, if you code it properly, it's going to last longer. If you code responsibly, it's going to last longer. It's that simple. So all of a sudden, your $10,000 website that's lasting 5 years is costing you $2,000 a year.
Yes, yeah, you are
your best ever salesman, $2,000 a year with no commission.
Yeah, yeah, completely agree.
But some people just don't have that money to spend, and that's fine. And we try and be as nice as possible and give them as much advice as possible. And it's happened. We'll give people a bit of advice, and 3 years later they'll come back to us.
Yeah,
I'm all about that. We ran
That's nice.
We had an open day at the office. It was actually Joe's idea, and we ran an open day at the office. Sort of advertised it on Twitter and a few other places, and got a lot of mentions and things. And people were just turning up throughout the day, and it was never meant to be a sales thing at all. It was just people turning up asking questions about their websites, not ones we've designed, obviously.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
so sat with them and say, okay, you might want to look at this. Your padding around elements could be better. Why not try a different font? That kind of thing. Or, your logo is taking up half the page. Everyone loves their logo, but let's bring that down and then try and get some call to actions up there, that kind of thing. And that was really nice to do. And you'd hope, we got asked to quote for a couple of jobs from it, and you sort of hope that sort of goodwill we put in will come back down the line.
Absolutely. Sorry, Ed, go.
I was just going to say, one question I do like is for design and stuff like that. What inspires you? Where do you get inspiration from on it? Other websites or different mediums?
Yeah, well, certainly not other websites, to be honest. A lot, believe it or not, podcasts, listening to other people's problems, following people far brighter than me on Twitter, looking through magazines. So I take influence from print now. I mean, one of the weaknesses I always thought I had was typography. And obviously that's the kind of thing. I go into WH Smith's and I don't care what the subject matter is. I'm looking for the most beautifully put together.
The nice font. Yeah,
and I started buying things like there's something about handcrafts or something called Frankie, and then there's another one called the Smith Journal, which is an American journal. And a lot of the I'm not into snowboarding at all, but a lot of the snowboarding and skateboarding magazines were really nicely laid out and really interesting.
Yeah, that's true about everything, isn't it? Like I remember watching a program on like companies were investing millions just for their labels on bottles of wine because it was that sold it to a customer. Yeah. Not how good your friend said that bottle of wine was. It's literally the thing that's most eye-catching, the thing that looks nicest. Yeah. I completely agree.
So, I mean, for me, there's obviously two sides of the inspiration. One of them's the design bit, but then you get the other side of it, which is the running a business part of it. And so, that's probably where more of the podcasts come in. And then, I don't know, anyone running a web design business, Mike Montero's Design as a Job is basically holy scripture. It's brilliant, and any designers who haven't read it, read it. It's that simple. But I've got a great love for science as well, and that sort of crosses over into what we do, because to be a designer, you quite simply need to be a critical thinker. You need to learn how to be a critical thinker, how to evaluate, to question, to not fall back on past solutions, and sort of trying to shoehorn them to fit new and different problems. And, I like to think with our portfolio, there's quite a bit of diversity there because we're solving different problems. And that's, obviously what we put on our portfolio is deliberately different stuff. We might have some that are of a similar vein, but it's never the same solution for two different clients, ever.
I'm really segueing here. Sorry. Ed's probably pulling his hair up, but, I just think, I often think with, Steve Jobs, I think as much as his kind of great business acumen and all the rest, but
and lovely personality,
his appreciation for design, I think, was perhaps as much as anything, and obviously Johnny Ive and the work that he does, but primarily Steve Jobs, his understanding of the importance of design, I think, was as much the reason behind his success as anything else.
We stuck by it as well, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Brave man.
Yeah, completely. And it's nice that Johnny Ive's an English guy as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool.
But that's not to say that everything. I've never been one to copy an Apple website or anything like that. Even now it frustrates the hell out of me when I can't remember what I was looking at, but I was on the Apple website on my iPhone and having a terrible experience of it.
Because that doesn't help, does it?
It wasn't responsive, and I'm thinking I'm trying to buy something, or I might have been looking before I bought my MacBook Air and just sort of having
on the iPhone. Oh dear!
And I thought this is a terrible experience. Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's quite shocking, actually, isn't it? You think they'd be all over that, but
and they did. Skeuomorphism, the sort of got a bad rap, and they certainly did a hell of a lot of that. I mean, it was really useful in parts. It really encouraged people to come over to using digital. It got them used to using a bit of digital kit where they used to use something, physical or analog before. So, that's not all bad, but sort of whatever Apple does, everyone jumps on the bandwagon of it, and it just seems a bit crazy. I don't think, certainly on their website of things, their products are great, but actually on their websites, I've never been overly impressed by anything, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely room for improvement, I think. But not that I can talk, but I know exactly what you mean.
If anyone from Apple happens to listen, I am available.
We are all available for jobs, certainly.
I'm not sure I could. Could you do it? Could you go and work for a company that huge?
Oh, I'd love to. Even if it's just for like a year, just to
you've learned so much.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe not directly like for Steve Jobs when he was around, because that sounds like it was a bit of a bit of a horrific
bit of a
experience.
megalomaniac or something.
Yeah, genius, but
evil genius.
Evil genius.
Well, the reason I set up my own business is because I'm a terrible employee. So, always had a bit of a problem with authority, and I'm going to work for myself. That's it.
I'm very jealous. It's something that would appeal to me one day. Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. I think one day I will, but it's having the guts and the kind of financial stability to do it, I guess, isn't it? But
yeah, I mean, as we sort of discussed earlier, I mean, I've sort of got forced into it a little bit, but and that's often the tale. I mean, if you wait for the right time to do it, you'd never do it.
Sure,
but don't get me wrong. There are better times to choose than others, though.
Yeah. One thing I was going to ask, we have already kind of talked about this a little bit, but how useful are things like, .NET Magazine, Web Designer Magazine, in terms of keeping up to date with all the trends on design, and how much do you let that influence you, I guess?
I stopped buying them, to be honest, about a year ago.
Yeah.
I just never really read them, and there's two parts of them. Number one, you have interviews with your sort of, your well-known web designers and things like that. Clever people, don't get me wrong, but I follow most of them on Twitter anyway.
Yeah.
The people I respect and want to hear from anyway.
Yeah.
So, and then you get the code sections and the useful techniques, but I've never been a person to sit down and do the tech bit first.
Yeah.
You need to know what's possible. And you can get that from Twitter and a list apart and places like that, or Smashing Magazine. That I tend to like to sketch out a design, then think, how the hell am I going to code this, or how am I going to get that to work like I want it to work, and then I'll go and find the answer.
Yeah.
I've got the sum total of the world's knowledge at my fingertips. I don't want to pre-learn it because I'll only forget it.
Yeah, completely agree. I've kind of gone the same way, to be honest with you. I might buy it if I'm going on holiday.
Something to read on the train or something.
Yeah.
But I'd rather buy something else. I'd rather buy New Scientist or something.
I find that clients like to buy these magazines, so they actually have like buzzwords they can speak about in meetings. They'll be like, "Oh, well, we could use Node for this. How about JS or something? Like, how about a bit of Angular? Maybe." It's like, "Oh, so you know your buzzwords now, do you?"
Yeah. Now tell me what they mean.
Yeah. It's like, how can we go into this? Let's talk. But they seem to sit, and it's like, I think the problem is like with a lot of these kind of things, they all kind of emphasize WordPress and all that. So they make, as we were talking about the barrier, like making the race to the bottom, they do kind of enforce that in a sense, like saying, it's just WordPress. You just install WordPress and this plugin and this plugin.
I'm just so sick of hearing about WordPress.
Yeah. It is.
I mean, one of the podcasts I've always listened to is the Shop Talk.
Yes, that they talk about it, don't they?
I've had to stop. I don't listen to every one now, to be honest, because it's a bit WordPress. How do I do this in WordPress? For people who don't use WordPress, there's a 75% discount.
They should just release a version without the WordPress talk, and it's just 10 minutes.
I like that. A premium version, no WordPress.
Oh dear. And that's the problem, isn't it? And again, the WordPress code base is horrible. And we had Phil Sturgeon on a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that the trouble with WordPress is because the reason why it's still alive is because it's so popular. So people still build extensions for it and still use it, and it's kind of this fulfilling thing where it's still alive because everyone's still using it. There's no kind of moving on to other things.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's good WordPress developers and bad WordPress developers. I know some great ones, and they know exactly how to do it and how to maximize its potential and not slow sites down to a crawl. But for every good one, there's 10 bad ones, unfortunately. And it's easy to get into, as I understand. I've never used it. I think I had to administer an old client's, one of their old websites. So we've got a WordPress site, can you update this? And I said, look, I've never used it before, but I'll give it a go. And I managed to struggle through and get done what I needed to do. But it's quite intimidating, even from a user's point of view, I think. There's thousands of options, it seems. And I don't know, I haven't looked at it for years. Maybe it's got better. But
No.
I'd say just don't look at it. I don't look at it either. It's just
just not what I want to be and not where I want to be, to be perfectly honest.
Kris, we're getting close to the hour mark, I guess, but we kind of primarily did this podcast for to try and encourage people to get into the web, and definitely for people out there who feel intimidated and think, oh, I'd love to be a web developer, but I'm not a genius 14-year-old kid who's great with computers. But we try and dispel those myths. But could you give your advice for anyone who's like stuck in a dead end job and they'd love to get into design, and how they might start going about that?
Well, absolutely. There's certain bits you can't teach. To be perfectly honest, or it would take a hell of a long time to teach, and that is being able to look at something and evaluate whether or not it works. Having the right skills, and I've used the word a few times, but it's true. Critical thinking skills. That's what design is. I mean, in terms of I sit here and try and sound all wonderful because I code my own designs. It's really easy. It's not that complicated. I'm dealing with HTML and CSS. And that's it. And you can learn that in a month. You'll be rubbish for a year or so. You can learn it in a month. That isn't the tricky bit at all. The tricky bit is learning how people interact with screens, doing the research. That's where the time is. But if you want to do it, just do it. I mean, what's stopping you? You spend an hour a night.
I completely agree. Definitely. And it's just, anyone should give it a go. I mean, I always say, and I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, I know I wasn't born with an eye for design. And unfortunately, I kind of accept that, I could probably get better at it. I could teach myself what's good ideas and what's bad ideas, but fundamentally, I don't think I was born with that ability. And that's fine, because everyone's born with different gifts. That's fine. I completely accept that. With development, I think, given the dedication to learning and just the willingness. And I think most people can learn. Some would be better than others, but I think with design, it is tricky. I think you have to have that certain amount of flair.
It just depends where you want to be. I mean, whether you want to be the best designer in the world, and that's where you're setting the bar. And I'd love to be, and I never will be, because there's some proper geniuses out there, and that's fine. That's fine with me. If you want to be a good enough web designer to have happy clients, to do a fair job and be able to justify the decisions you've taken on the project, you can do. And that's where things like, I guess, Bootstrap do help. As opposed to leaving it to someone to not style a button and having a default sort of browser button. Bootstrap's helping people out. It is raising it at their sort of entry level, I guess.
I
don't know. I often think about my eldest is 12. Would I want her to be a web designer? I don't know.
That's a great question. I wish we.
I really don't know. I'm asking myself questions now.
It's definitely a labour of love, and it's.
I'm glad I did it when I was young. Put it that way. I'm 30, nearly 37 now, and trying to learn it now. If I had a day job, a 9 to 5, and then coming home and trying to do it around sort of spending time with the kids and the missus and whatnot, and I'm not sure I could do it now. I did it when I was young and used to sit up, as I said, till, you sit up to the wee small hours in the morning and then go to work the next day because you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the moral of the podcast is, don't get married, don't have kids, and be a slave to your computer, and you'll be fine. I'll take
this on board. Thanks, guys. Not going to happen then. There's only one. This is for me, and it's my aim.
I love a podcast with a moral at the end.
But I am joking, of course, and it's really important to get away from the computer and have a social life, definitely.
Well, that's where, as we were saying earlier, where a lot of the inspiration comes from, is getting away from the bloody screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go and walk around a museum. I'm very lucky. I've got a meeting down at the seaside tomorrow, and that should take about an hour, down in Broadstairs.
Brilliant, yeah.
And that should take about an hour, and I've done a nice early meeting, so I'll get that done. And go for a walk along the coast, and then I'll probably walk to Margate and go in the Turner Contemporary and have a wander around there.
Excellent. That sounds like a nice day.
And I'll pick up inspiration from there, going to the Design Museum in London. They had the Paul Smith exhibition on, and that was awesome. Just seeing what his inspirations were. And he had so many things that, magazine cuttings, wacky pictures, figures, all this kind of stuff that inspired him on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
you could take inspiration from, I don't know, what someone's wearing. A T-shirt that's got two colours on, and you think, wow, they really work really well together.
See, that is really cool. I just don't have that, but listening to you talk about it is very cool to me. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, but trust me, you guys, when you were speaking about whatever you were speaking about earlier, crons, I don't know what a cron is. I think it's got something to do with demons, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't go anywhere near the terminal. I really don't. I'm scared of it. It frightens me. That's your domain, and you can stay there.
I completely agree. Yeah. Well, chaps, we have gone over the hour mark anyway, but Ed, did you have anything you wanted to ask before we go?
I'm out of questions now. No, everything's been answered.
Well, let me just say thanks again, Kris, for coming on. It's been really great having you on and really interesting. And we should really kind of give you a little plug because you are a designer, a freelance designer, and you're based in Maidstone, Kent. And people should check out your website, which is squidders.com. So,
thanks. One D in Squidders, just the one D. I couldn't get the main name with two Ds in. That'd already. I've been trying to buy that for 10 years.
Yeah, how's that going? Is someone just parked on it?
Sitting on it doing nothing.
Oh, lovely people. Squatters. I hate. Yeah, it's horrible on domains, isn't it? They just
I've tried to contact them, offering them money, but hey.
And they just I love squatting on it.
But they never get back to me. But anyway, sorry. Thank you very much, gents. Yeah,
well, thank you. No, it's been great. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're on Twitter as well, I guess. I don't know if you wanted me to make that public, but I just have.
You can. It's Kris_Jeary on Twitter. Kris with a K, Jeary. Well, just search Squidders, you'll find me. With one P.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. You've been a great guest. And as for me and Ed, we will be back on the next podcast. So thanks, guys, for listening.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, then bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com or follow us on Twitter at 3 Devs and a Maybe.